Psychologist and author Jordan Peterson has provided us with 12 guidelines, 12 principles that everyone should live by to ensure a life of meaning. In this video, I have summarized all 12 rules for you. Here are the 12 rules for life by Jordan Peterson. Rule 1. Humans are constantly measuring themselves up against each other. Thereby, we associate someone's strength and intelligence with his or her physicality. Persons who are on a winning streak often present a swaggering and confident body language. So if you want to give yourself an advantage over others and become a winner, follow rule number 1. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to accept the terrible responsibility of life with eyes wide open. Rule 2. We often take better care of others than ourselves because we often believe that we are unworthy of feeling good, a belief that goes as far back as the story of Adam and Eve being exiled from the Garden of Eden. In the tale, Adam and Eve represent all humans. They are tricked into eating the forbidden apple of knowledge by an evil snake. By following the snake's advice, human beings are seen as being forever corrupted with wickedness. This story of the Garden Eden can reinforce the sense that we don't deserve good things, but it can also be understood another way. The whole world is corrupted, not just us. The entire world represents a natural mix of order and chaos. Harmony is achieved by finding the healthy balance between light and dark. Neither can exist without the other, and no one should strive to go too far in either direction. What we have to do is caring for ourselves with the same tenderness we would care for a loved one. Rule 2 is treat yourself like you are someone you are responsible for helping. Rule 3 is all about choosing your friends wisely. Let's imagine a workplace setting. The manager has a problem with one of his employees because the employee is an underachiever. So the manager puts him into a team of high performers, thinking that this will result in his problematic employee picking up good habits from the coworkers. But as studies have shown, the opposite is more likely to happen. The bad habits will start to spread and bring down everyone's performance. This is why it's so important to make sure that we surround ourselves with supportive friends, because these are the kinds of friendships that can bring about positive change. Rule number 3 in one sentence: make friends with people who want the best for you. Rule 4. These days we are all part of a global community, and no matter where we are, there is always someone better than us. Especially when we scroll through social media, we are always confronted with people who flaunt their seemingly perfect lives there. Of course, it's important to be critical of ourselves, because if we were not, we would have nothing to strive for and no motivation to better ourselves. But when it becomes all about comparing ourselves to others, self-criticism can get really ugly. This is why we should never compare ourselves to others. Instead, let's always judge ourselves against our own prior accomplishments. And that is rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Rule 5. Nowadays we have a clear understanding of the fact that people are born with aggressive instincts and must learn how to become kinder, gentler, and more civilized adults. Maybe you remember how vicious kids on the playground can get. Most workplaces are a picture of tranquility in comparison. According to Jordan Peterson, it's up to the parents to make sure their naturally aggressive youngster learns how to be a well-adjusted adult. They need to raise a responsible and likable human being by setting boundaries. Because if children don't learn these things from a loving and understanding parent, They are going to learn it later on in a way that is sure to involve less love and understanding. Peterson also mentions some key methods for good parenting. The first one is to limit the rules, because too many of them lead to frustrated kids who are constantly hitting barriers. So they need to have a few basic and easy to understand principles. It's also important to use necessary force, because effective and fair discipline can only be applied when consequences are made clear. Of course, the punishment should only be as severe as necessary for a child to learn not to break the rule again. Another key method for good parenting is to come in pairs. Kids are clever and try to get their way by playing one parent against the other, so a unified front is important to raise a responsible and kind child. Rule number 5 is: do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Rule 6. No matter how much we have suffered or however cruel and unjust we find life to be, we should never blame the world. Instead, let's take responsibility for our own life before judging anything or anyone else, because only if we accept our fate, we can contribute something good and meaningful to the world. Rule 6 is: set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Rule 7. Many people pursue pleasures every day that are not in their best interest, and many are unwilling to make sacrifices that are in their best interest. If it makes us happy, it can't be bad, right? That's the logic behind self-harming behaviors that give us immediate pleasure. The other side is giving up some things now that bring us better things in the future. Already in ancient times, tribes had to put food aside to make it through the winter or to help those in the community who couldn't hunt. This topic is also heavily represented in the Bible. Our suffering in life is the sacrifice we must make so that we may experience the joys of the afterlife. Instead of searching for happiness, we must search for meaning, not for its own sake, but as a defense against the suffering that is intrinsic to our existence. This leads us to Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Rule 8. Truth is often considered a valuable commodity in our culture, but we nevertheless tell lies all the time. One of the main reasons for lying, not only to others but also to ourselves, is to get what we think we want. But our ability to fool ourselves into thinking we already know everything we need to know is an especially foolish perspective to have, since it shuts off our natural desire to learn and grow. Far more worse things can happen when we are living a life lie, unwilling to recognize the truth. We don't need to give up each one of our ambitious goals, but we should be flexible so that our goals are realistic and reflect the truth. And as our understanding and worldview changes, so should also our goals. Here comes Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Rule 9. The ancient philosopher Socrates is still considered one of the wisest men who has ever walked planet Earth, even thousands of years after his death. One reason for this is his belief that the only thing he knew was that he knew nothing. This was a driving force in his conversations and his openness to learn. But in our conversations, we often refuse to listen and treat the dialogue as a competition we need to win in order to validate our preconceptions. Rather than hearing what the other person has to say, we think about what to say next or act like it's a contest. From now on, let's follow rule number 9 in all our conversations. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't know. Rule 10. Think of the word car. Everyone knows what a car is. It's a vehicle that gets us from point A to point B. But what if this vehicle breaks down halfway between A and B? Would you know the precise ways in which a car works? Could you pop the hood and fix this piece of complex machinery? If we can't fix problems ourselves, and there will always be problems we can't fix ourselves, we need to re-establish order by clearly and precisely explaining what went wrong. Precise language can help in all areas of life, and the sooner we are honest and precise with our fellows, the easier life will be. That's Rule 10. Be precise in your speech. Rule 11. Outside some of the buildings on the University of Toronto campus, Jordan Peterson was often amazed by skateboarders showing off admirable fearlessness and a willingness to embrace danger. But suddenly, city officials decided to prohibit skateboarding on the campus. The problem is we can't establish rules that go against the very nature of who we are as people. For sure, our rules should protect us, but they should not do so in a way that suppresses the good qualities in people. Therefore, Rule 11 is, metaphorically speaking, do not bother children while they are skateboarding. Rule 12. Life is hard and full of sorrow. That's why it is important to celebrate the small joys in life. Jordan Peterson's daughter has been coping with severe arthritis since she was 6 years old. She has suffered from constant pain, requiring multiple surgeries for joint replacements and frequent injections. Someone in this situation might think life is unfair, but it's important to recognize that the dark bits of pain, suffering, and sorrow are giving the good moments their value. If we didn't have to fight through difficulties and suffering to reach them, good moments would be meaningless. Let's make sure to embrace life and appreciate every good thing that comes our way. Thereby, we make sure to see ourselves through the tough times, even when they are prolonged. This is the best attitude to have. It's the kind that makes us take our time to stop and pet a cat when we cross one on the sidewalk. And let's always remember, there is no day without the darkness of night, just as there is no order without chaos. The suffering in life is also what gives us meaning to our perseverance and makes the moments of peace so rewarding. Here's rule number 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one in the street. According to Jordan Peterson, everyone should live by these 12 rules to ensure a life of meaning and become better every day. If you want to become better in all areas of life, you can start right now by following the 12 rules for life and by subscribing to my channel. Thank you. I see you in the next video.